So when's hair and makeup come in?
Yeah, specifically should be
Specifically makeup.
Yeah, specifically.
I was hoping for someone to do something with this, you know.
I feel like there should be a jingle or something.
You could sing.
No.
You could sing the intro to this podcast, and it'd be great.
No. Hello and welcome back to WePC, and this is the first episode of the WePC podcast.
Yay! Enthusiasm.
Yay!
I think next week we should have a live audience.
We've got Mitch.
There you go. Say hi, Mitch. Here we go.
That's Mitch, the intern.
You can great.
I'm going to call him that. It's great.
Perfect.
So I'm Elliot. I am one of the social media execs, and I'm here with Louis. Say hello to the world, Louis.
Hello world. I'm the news editor here at WePC.
And Jay.
I'm the video guy, so I control everything here. It's great.
But yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about the summer of gaming and what games we're looking forward to, what games that have been this year. Obviously, it was delayed heavily by COVID-19 and the whole lockdown situation and everything that went on around that. But we're back. We're socially distancing, which is now a meter. So, yeah. Great.
Did you get a ruler on? Did you actually measure 1 meter? Because
well, you're the video guy.
I'm not in control of measurements.
But we're just enacting forced perspective. If you've ever seen The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, just consider Louis Gandalf. And Jay is the size of Frodo anyway.
Yeah, you're not wrong, to be fair.
So we're going to kick off this week's podcast with the games that we're most looking forward to from the rest of the year, but we're going to put from the 1st of July. I think I gave you because we're recording this a week in advance of that. Yeah. But so obviously a lot of games are coming out this year.
Are they definitely coming out?
They're definitely coming out.
I'm starting to think that they're not, to be honest.
Some of them.
Is Crisis going to come out at some point? Or?
Crisis just said bye and hasn't said anything else. I still can't believe that.
Crisis is like that one relative that comes around for Christmas once every 7 years and then just disappears out of your life and you forget about them.
So I don't think I've ever seen a situation like this before where they've last minute pulled an announcement
on the day
and footage because it sort of leaked a bit early and it was supposed to be a remaster, but it just looks like the same game again.
Yeah, well, I think that's the issue with a lot of games nowadays, where they're remastering, they're scaling up the graphics, they're adding maybe 1 or 2 more hours of story content, but that's it, and you're still paying roughly the same price as you would for a new game.
It does work though. Skyrim has been on every single console at this point. I'm surprised it wasn't on the Nintendo Wii, to be honest.
But I mean, it's like the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remastered campaign that got released earlier this year. Like that was exactly the same game, scaled up with graphics, no differences whatsoever. They changed the intervention noise a little bit.
That's why I didn't buy it. Yeah, literally.
And that was £25.
Yeah.
Like, how can you merit that sort of price point? But for the remainder of the year, you know, we might be seeing Cyberpunk. Maybe. We'll find out closer to the time if they're actually releasing it again. We've obviously got like Fast and Furious, that game coming out. We have a load of PC releases. You've got new Madden, new PGA Tour, which is back this year, which for all you golf fans.
I've never played a game above Wii Sports Golf, to be honest.
And then obviously you've got other big ticket ones, so Marvel Avengers, and then big remasters, so Tony Hawk. So Louis, which game are you?
Tony Hawk, I'm quite interested in because I do like these types of remasters and remakes. It's actually the 3rd time they've remade all these games, so hopefully they'll get it right this time because they've done. There was the previous one, the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 HD, which were a bit iffy, didn't quite feel right.
That was on the PS3, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was on PC as well, I think. But and then before that, there was one on the original Xbox where, at the time, it was newer graphics, but now that one still kind of looks old. So yeah, hopefully they get it right this time.
I mean, I know you, Jay, were definitely looking forward to getting Pro Skater 3, but that's not been announced.
Yeah, could they not have just released the trilogy? Because my favourite thing about Tony Hawk's was playing as Darth Maul, I'm not going to lie. It was quite literally one of the greatest experiences of my childhood after watching Star Wars, but they didn't release the first 2. But that's probably because they know 3 is so popular that they can release it as a separate game, so...
I think they'll do 1 and 2, and then if it does well, later on, we'll get 3 and 4. Although, I wouldn't be so sure about all those characters, the extra bonus characters coming back. They said that all the normal main characters are.
Well, they've released
But,
the character list, haven't they, for it?
Yeah,
And
there's no Spider-Man on the list, right?
no, but there is Tony Hawk's daughter.
Oh,
So
Tony Hawk's
you know,
daughter.
yeah,
Nice.
he's put his daughter in the game, which is,
Yeah.
I guess,
Wholesome.
nepotism at its finest.
Yeah. But to be
Like-
honest, the only two characters I remember was playing Darth Maul and then the big eyeball, because it was like their company logo,
that's
wasn't
right,
it, or
yeah.
something? And
I just never deviated from Tony Hawk.
Oh,
But then
really?
his daughter is meant to be like, obviously as you would be, you're Tony Hawk's daughter.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be good at skateboarding. I mean,
I do like all the older skaters as well. They're not just reprising their roles as younger skaters. They've done new motion capture and new performance capture. So we've seen all these skaters age by like 20 years since the original game as well.
my favorite thing about Tony Hawk's, have you seen the meme Tony Hawk's existential crisis?
Yeah.
So basically, everyone keeps meeting Tony Hawk's, but going, "Oh, you look like that Tony Hawk's guy." Or if you skateboard and be like, "Oh, do you still skateboard? Are you still the thing?" kind of thing. And everyone always tweets a response, and it's Tony Hawk's existential crisis. I'll throw it on the screen just because it's the best meme of all time, to be honest.
Someone's made a game based on this actually, like a musical. It's like a musical rhythm adventure game, unpacking his existential crisis, going back to his childhood and so the origins of this type of stuff.
Oh, I'm hoping that this game will revitalize his popularity, and people. Will
he's
start...
such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's very
thing,
wholesome.
isn't he?
Like, he's one of those Kobe players, like, who you just see as the nicest guy in the world.
Like even when they were putting out terrible Tony Hawk's games, he still sort of showed up and was very polite when he was promoting them.
Yeah, which you've got to love. I mean, I don't personally. I'm too young to remember the Tony Hawk releases. I don't know if that's a dig at your age there, Lou. But
I remember them.
yeah, I remember getting them when I was about 10, and
Yeah.
my mum getting them from a car boot sale,
Mm-hmm.
like where we used to get all my new games. Like,
Brilliant.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I had a few from these kind of places.
Like 4 for a tenner, and you just get really, really
Yeah.
awful games.
So, do we know when that's coming out? Isn't that in a few weeks?
It's
Or is
Tony
it-
Hawk Pro Skater. I think is in September. Could be next month.
Yeah, we'll
I think it is
It's
next
going to be an
month.
expensive few months, if I'm perfectly
Yeah.
honest. There's so many things that are going to be coming out soon that I want that's going to be an issue. And then the PS5. So, savings starts now. No one is going to be going out for food or drinks anytime soon because of COVID. So, all of that money is getting put into a separate account ready to buy the PS5. So, and we've had the leaked price now, haven't we? So,
We've had a leaked price of the PS5, but we'll get onto that because we've got a tech discussion later. So stay tuned for a tech discussion for all you.
so
tech
is Tony
nerds.
Hawk's your number one most looked forward to?
Maybe, yeah, it's probably up there. It's weird because we have got a load of skating games coming now, so you don't know which one's going to turn out to be the best one because obviously a new skate, and then there's a bunch of smaller Project Session and Skater XL. So I might check out some of these, but Tony Hawk's is obviously the classic.
Yeah, I've just had a look. It's September the 4th. That's being released. What are you?
I'm torn between. I've recently started playing WoW again because a lot of my friends got into it. So I've been playing through the DLCs when they came out, and then I stopped playing for like a year or two. And then Shadowlands is coming out, which looks really, really good, and they're revitalizing a lot of the stuff. So I'm torn between that or Ghost of Tsushima because that looks amazing.
See, that's getting a lot of press now. That
Yeah.
sort of came out of nowhere. I feel like that was unheard of until
Well, it was announced. Was it E3?
it was announced at E3 last year.
Yeah.
When they announced Cyberpunk, because I remember, or was it at the Xbox?
It was. I'm pretty sure it was when they announced the PS5. They would put like a demo, or it was either
yeah,
E3
'cause
or it was
it's
when
PS4,
they
isn't it?
announced the PS5. I don't know because it's I've always been really into kind of like rural Japan and like the samurai and stuff like that. So this kind of game is like my go-to. Plus it's like Dark Souls combat, so it looks really interesting to be fair. And to be honest, I've been playing so much Last of Us that I'm kind of in stealth mode now. So when it comes to playing that game, I'm going to be an absolute pro. So I'm tied between Shadowlands or Ghost of Tsushima, or if it's coming out this year, the new Crash Bandicoot game. It looks incredible.
I think it is.
And also the new Crash Bandicoot game or the new Ratchet and Clank game, because they're like two of the games that I played to death when I was a child. So playing them now is great, and it's not even a remaster. They're two brand new games, which is great. So
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
is what it's called.
Yeah.
And that's just fitting, I guess.
I
Like,
definitely like the trailer where they're just making jokes about how no one liked the original sequels to Crash Bandicoot, so we're gonna try again. Go back and do it again.
and to be honest, it looks really good, and Ratchet and Clank looks really good as well. So yeah, it's
See, I'm a
between, it's
massive
between
fan
them.
of Ratchet and Clank. I absolutely adore Ratchet and Clank.
Mm.
It's just one of those games that just was the pinnacle of my childhood.
Yeah.
That and like Little Big Planet, which is obviously that's got announced now. That is coming out for the PS5 as well. So
I've noticed it, when it comes to those type of games, you had kind of like two different people. It was someone who played Ratchet and Clank, and then someone who played Jak and Daxter, and then there's people who've never even heard of Jak and Daxter, which hurts me. Because Jak and Daxter was such an amazing game, and I got the originals on PlayStation for like £3 a few weeks ago, and I've been playing through them. So it was always Ratchet and Clank, Crash Bandicoot, and then Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, I mean Sly Cooper as well. You can't forget Sly
I
Cooper.
was one of those that
like
didn't
Sly
play
Cooper.
Sly Cooper, so I'm that person that never played Sly Cooper. So I played the other three.
I liked it maybe more than and some of the other ones you're saying liked as well. But yeah, because it's got kind of stealthy, it's got a real cool comic book art style, and it's just quite a stylish game. But yeah.
I think when I was younger, I just hated stealth games. The prefect missions in Harry Potter to this day still scar me. To be honest, I'm never really good with stuff like
it
that.
was Order of the Phoenix on the Wii.
On the Wii?
Yeah, that was the Harry Potter game that I remember more than any other. So, yeah, I had like the Philosopher's Stone one and all of that on like the GameCube and everything. But that one, because it was the first experience I had in a game that was Harry Potter actually casting the spells myself, and it was so good. And it was just it was so. And I bought it like 4 years after it came out, so even at the time it was really de-aged.
Yeah.
But I was just sat there like,
And a lot of those Wii games
Loving
don't
it.
hold up that well. Graphically,
no, they don't. Yeah, no, they really don't. So we've got other games coming out this year, which quite surprisingly, we've had an elimination tournament on WePC Insta, which is still going on. It's been going on for the past month, I think. Trying to suss out what the best, most anticipated game of the year. And we just finished the second round, I think it is. And one of the shockers from that was that Baldur's Gate 3 beat out the new Marvel Avengers game.
Personally, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but I personally think that's because Danielle's been sharing it.
I think that's because
one
Danielle's been sharing it.
of our editors, Danielle, she's a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. So when she shares that on Facebook, all of her friends go and vote for it. So, and then I'm doing the same for Wild Shadowlands. So I'm trying to get Wild Shadowlands to beat that competition, and she's got all of her Dungeons and Dragons friends. So I'm like, oh, God, so how is this going to end?
I mean, I'm not surprised by that though, because it's been a while since Baldur's Gate has been one, right?
It has,
what, 15 years or something.
Something like that.
And so I think a lot of people are ready for a new one as well. And look, I mean, I love the Avengers, but that game does not look interesting.
I disagree, to be honest, because I got the original press release like last year when they announced it. I was like, oh God, this looks awful. The voice character, like the voices are just I'd have to play it on mute. But now they've introduced kind of like an MMO kind of level up style. So now you have kind of like your green rarity weapons, and it goes up, and then each of those do different skills. So like you could play a 4 character, so you don't actually always play as 4. You create someone who kind of has those same powers, and then you've got different skill trees. So you know, it's like, because it's all online, you can play as 4 and I can play as 4 kind of, but we have completely different characters because of our skills and weapons and stuff like that. So now they've added that system, it's intriguing me a little bit more.
I think because obviously you've got like, they've announced like the new Batman game and the new Suicide Squad game and everything like that as well. I think what sets that
I don't
apart,
think they announced them yet, right? We've
well,
heard
it's been
a few
leaked.
whispers
Yeah, we've
and
heard
stuff.
some nice leaks about it. But I think the reason that Batman has worked so well across animated and across the games and everything like that is because, one, the voice talent they had was just known as Kevin Conroy, and it was Mark Hamill who.
I mean, Mark Hamill. Now, if I read a Batman comic, I hear Mark Hamill's
like
voice in the Joker.
Mark Hamill for me is one of the best iterations of the Joker. He's up there with Heath Ledger, like as one of the best iterations. But also as well, because there's been that much investment into storytelling in the world of Marvel that we've seen it in the MCU. So it's been Robert Downey Jr. for 12 years, and it's been, you know, it's always been that person. It's never differentiated from that. That's where I think they've done it at the wrong time. This game would have been good 5 years ago when it was still in fledgling, maybe when like first or
Wasn't
second
so
Avengers
entrenched.
came out. Now that you've reached the pinnacle of, you know, Endgame's just happened and everything, everyone's so used to all of these characters and has got these emotional connections to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, that seeing them on screen almost makes it seem like it's almost a rip-off of a game.
I think for me, it feels like the mistake they've made is they've gone for like a realistic MCU adjacent art style, but that's not Robert Downey Jr. That's not all of them. that, yeah, like you say, we know these so well. If they'd have gone for a more stylized look, if they tried to visually differentiate themselves more from the films,
it's why having like
easier.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man and then Into the Spider-Verse worked really well.
Or even the Spider-Man game as well.
Yeah, that worked so well because it was you saw the 3 different styles, you saw all of that came into one thing, and it's like that Spider-Man done 3 different ways. It's not a team trying to rip off the Avengers, doing it the same way and getting into the same emotional connection.
And based on the trailers and what we've seen so far as well, there's very little levity as well. It's quite serious and quite... there doesn't seem to be any humour in it, whereas I think what a lot of people like about the films is you have got these comedic moments mixed in with the action, and I think it's harder to pull that off in a game, especially if you're going to be playing the same missions over and over again.
It's really interesting bringing in Ms. Marvel as well. Like, I think that's really... That's
one of the best choices they made, I think.
Because that, for me, is one of the safest things you could do, because she's not in the MCU.
You've got nothing to compare it to from a film.
Absolutely nothing to compare it to, which is why I think having people like the Fantastic Four would have been good in this, because...
a couple of X-Men.
Yeah,
Wolverine in
like
there,
that would have been amazing in this.
Yeah, but it's DLC, isn't it? They probably will come.
Probably, yeah. But the same way that Marvel are DLC in the actual MCU, because there's so many theories about that.
Yeah, but no, to be honest, I've seen gameplay. I wasn't thrilled when I first seen it, but now that I've seen a little bit more of it, I mean, I'll play it, see if it's any good. I mean, I'll keep an eye on it when it's coming up to it. But when they've shown the new systems, because they released like an hour worth of like really in-depth footage and going through all the menus and stuff like that, it looks a lot better than it did. I just don't think I can distract myself from the voices. It's really awkward. So, don't know, see if it's any good. Honestly.
I also think, like, if I'm playing as Hulk and I can't just smash a building to pieces, that's a bug. Right? Yeah. That's the game not functioning correctly. If I'm Hulk, I want to smash everything around me, just level completely everything. And it doesn't quite look like you'll be able to do that, so yeah, I'll be disappointed.
So we're talking about the games that are most anticipated and the games we're all looking forward to. There's really only one game that comes up whenever these discussions, every single person says it, and that's Cyberpunk. So obviously it's been pushed back, whether that is due to crunch time or whether it's due to it being a launch title or however you want to put it. What do you think, because obviously the main effect was it going into crunch time and then coronavirus hit and it all came in, do you think it's going to be the game that it's now? It just keeps continually being hyped up. Every time something new gets released, it gets hyped up even further. Yeah. Do you think it's going to live up to the expectations?
To be honest, I've seen, obviously they gave the game 2 reviewers, which means they must have some sort of level of, belief that it's ready for people to play. So I was always confused this way. If you're going to give the reviewers now the copy to review and again, let them publish that, why would it not be ready? It makes no sense to me. I mean, I get like final touches and stuff like that, but if the base game is ready, then it's kind of, I don't know. I've always believed that they're pushing it back so that they can get the PS5 release and for the exclusive console and whatever it is, whatever deal they end up cracking for that one. But the gameplay that's been released so far, because there's about an hour gameplay on like 4 different social channels like IGN and stuff like that, it looks really good. Like the neon lights in the night city and stuff look absolutely unreal. And when it comes to
reflections
aesthetic,
on the cars as well, I thought really looked good.
That on PS5 on a really good TV is going to be absolutely breathtaking. Pardon the little pun there, but I think it's going to look absolutely amazing. Personally,
I don't know what pun he did there. Yeah,
breathtaking. We all forget.
Keanu Reeves.
Someone over everyone's head.
Yeah, it's going to be an achievement that pops in the game. Or something, I think.
So that's how long Cyberpunk.
We both sat here like, what the hell is he on
that's
about?
How long
I wasn't going to say
Cyberpunk-
anything until you looked at me.
That's how long it's been pushed back. That means now is just going over people's heads as soon as I say it. Yeah. But I
mean, this game was first announced, wasn't it, like 2013 or something?
Because obviously CD Projekt Red, they've just stuck to The Witcher, and it's been
been very successful.
I mean, The Witcher 3 is arguably one of the best games of all time. I'd say that with slight tinge in my voice.
You could make that argument.
Yeah. But it's having them that confidence to go outside what they know, whilst also maintaining features that are revolutionary, that are going to be from the Witcher games. I still think a lot of the combat is going to be eerily similar. Even though it's not swords and things like that, but it's basically going to be. I always thought of it as a cyberpunk Witcher with guns. That's what I was expecting whenever it got first announced.
It's not completely clear to me where on the spectrum of like RPG versus action game it sits, because it's somewhere in the middle there. But
whether it's an actual story-driven thing, or whether it's like if you have to get to this point by this.
And how much is it about action skill versus like what equipment you're using and things like that?
That's why I'm thinking. I'm hoping there's going to be some sort of skill tree, and like your weapons you can customize and stuff like that. I don't want it to be Grand Theft Auto style. So obviously it is big open world and it's got very similar themes to a Grand Theft Auto game, but I just don't hope it follows that same trend of just like, oh, you just go and buy your weapons and that's it. I love customization of weapon skins and stuff like that. I'm a sucker for microtransaction weapon skins. I'll openly say it, but I just hope they don't go down that Grand Theft Auto route, because even though that's a great game, in terms of how this game's shaping to be, I think if they've got skill trees and stuff like that, it's gonna be incredible.
I want like a little bit of the Deus Ex in there as well. Yeah? Like,
see, that's what I was gonna say. This was always my like. If CD Projekt Red did Deus Ex, this is kind of what I think it'd turn out to be, obviously mixed with their influences. So COVID's had a big impact, obviously, on the release of that. What do you think then going forward the impact on the gaming industry is going to be? Do you think we're going to get more working from home developers? Do you think we're going to get a lot more of this sort of almost patience from the community for the next few years, seeing that, okay, this is obviously because this was started back in 2020 when all this was happening, so we got to give them a little bit more time. How do you think that's going to play out down the line?
Well, I think obviously one of the big things with The Last of Us 2 was crunch time and overworking people, and that's where obviously some of the problems rose from. But I mean, personally, working from home for myself, I feel like I work a lot better in my own space. I feel like a lot of people might do that. People are different. Some people like working in that environment amongst their team members, especially if you're like in the art department, for example. You're like, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that kind of thing? Whereas some people thrive in their own environment. So I think moving forward, employers, I'm hoping, are going to be more respectful of people who like to work from home, because you can see the benefits from it. And obviously, some people may not have a great day. They don't want to go into the office and have to socialize. Some people might need a mental health day, and that means if they can work at home on their own time, then that's perfectly fine.
So Craig, if you're listening,
but in terms of like releases and stuff, I mean, we've seen some really good companies come and put their own kind of showcase of their games virtually. It doesn't necessarily mean we need to book out these massive stadiums for like E3, which is also a really great thing. I mean, going to conventions is great, but also it shows that we can do these things at home. So, I don't know.
Speaking quite telling about E3, right? They said initially once they cancelled the physical event, they said, oh, we will be doing a big digital event, so stay tuned for details on that. And then not long afterwards, they said, oh, actually, we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to do nothing instead. Yeah. Because I kind of think if you look at like EA and Ubisoft doing their own digital events, what would they need E3 for if not for the big venue in LA Convention Center?
So do you then think that E3 is ever going to come back, or is it going to be the same?
It won't be the same if it does.
E3's not felt the same for years. When I was a kid, it was like the dream, as sad as it was, to go to E3. It was everywhere. All the games that were coming out were at E3. Microsoft didn't have their separate thing. Sony didn't have their separate thing. Everything that was of notability in the gaming industry was at E3, and you'd wait for it to count down on the website, and you'd watch E3, and it'd be the best time, and everyone would cheer together for the new games and stuff. Whereas now, with everyone having their own separate conferences, I don't even watch E3 anymore. Like, and E3 was great.
What even was E3 this year? Like, yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there was no like, come and watch E3. This is what it is. Here's an obvious schedule. There was everything splintered off into all sorts of different places.
I think it's because it's become, the gaming industry itself has become so much richer.
Yeah.
And companies no longer need to rely on that exposure.
And global as well, right?
Not I mean, obviously before Facebook and Twitter and everything, you'd have to rely on gaming magazines and word of mouth and these events. But now you don't.
Yeah.
You can announce a game and release it and do all the marketing for it online. So why do you still need that?
Like a good example, right? Look back at how Apex Legends launched. Imagine if that didn't launch like that. It was E3 previews and then it came out in 3-4 months' time. I don't think it would have done any better than it did the way it did release.
Yeah.
Where they like announced it and released it the same day.
I don't know. I do think unless the people who run E3 can rebuild the connections with those companies, I really don't see it being as popular as it once was, because E3 was huge. There'd be millions of people watching it live, and now they get a fraction of that now because realistically, the games you want to see are at their own respective conferences now. And I kind of like them all having like a scheduling, like, oh, okay, I come in today at 2:00 and Nintendo are going to be there, and come 4:00 and PlayStation's going to be there, and you'd have it all in one day. And I remember me and my friends, when it was E3 day, we would like order some food, we'd have a few drinks, and we like get excited for the new releases, and then we'd always see the new Call of Duty game because that was always at the end, and we'd get really excited. And now it's just kind of, there's no excitement at all. It's kind of, what even is it? Like you said, if you asked me what is at E3 3 years ago, I'd be like, oh, all these games. And now if you ask me, I literally don't even know who is at E3 anymore. Like, the Nintendo even there anymore?
And this trend was kind of happening already, but would definitely be accelerated by taking a year off and then the whole other logistical challenges with COVID-19. I mean, even outside of E3, I remember various different gaming events that I've been to. And I've tried VR demos with a headset. And there's like a queue of 100 people lining up to try this one VR headset. Everyone's putting it on their face, getting all the disgusting germs on it, and then putting it down. And then someone queues up to use it again next. I don't think we're ever doing like any public demos for VR stuff ever again. Maybe.
See, when we went to CES, we went to B-Haptics, which was a big haptic studio for VR thing going on, and they were really good. So they would have sanitizer ready to wipe it every time someone used it, and then you put this kind of like face mask on, but it covered your entire face. It looked really scary. I've got a picture of Danielle where she looks like Voldemort because it's completely covering her nose, and it would like basically attach to your face, and it was apparently very, very good, like sanitary wise. I
mean, maybe, I don't know if that'll convince everyone to, like, I don't know if it's still going to be
I mean, Americans, maybe they seem to be split 50-50 at the minute on wearing a mask, so I think they'll be pretty fine from that perspective. I think you'll be looking at more like the Asian countries and where those symptoms are being taken very seriously, and everything is getting wiped down after you.
They're paying attention to like science and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. like people should.
Yeah, I think people are going to be a lot more. I mean, it's interesting to see how many businesses weren't taking these precautions anyway. Like there was a cinema, I don't know who it was, and they were like, this is Joe, and he's taking his hourly spray down at the seats. I'm like, Joe should have been doing that anyway. You tell me that he's not been doing that.
I definitely used to work in a cinema, and we didn't clean them.
Yeah, and it's places now that are like, okay, we're going to make sure the health of our employees is tip top. And I'm like, well, it's really worrying that is not being your tip top concern in the first place. So I think, I think moving forward, people are going to be able to work from home a bit more. I think a lot of meetings don't need to be face to face. I think some people get quite a bit of anxiety when it comes to like a face to face meeting. Whereas if you're doing a Zoom call, for example, you've got the relaxation of your own room or something like that. I know certain people for their jobs have to travel all around the world to go to meetings. So if someone has to go from London to Japan to go and discuss a game release, that can now be done over a conference call because we've shown that can clearly be done in an effective way. So I think in terms of productivity, it's going to go through the roof with everything that's happened. Game releases, I don't know. Will they schedule it to be more timely released? I don't know.
It's definitely going to be a bigger importance put on netcode for any sort of competitive game, like fighting games, different types of esports games and shooters and whatever.
I think there's going to be
a huge shaky netcode anymore.
I think there's going to be a huge shift now from physical to digital. I think that's going to be the main difference we see in the industry. I think maybe after this next generation, everything will be digital. I think companies like Game and things like that will not be here in 10 years.
Or at least not on the high street.
Not on the high street, no.
Well, I've never seen how Game fully makes money, because I can go and take a game that I bought last week and sell it for practically the same price, maybe £10 less, and then they have 700 copies of that on the shelves. I've never understood how those games make money.
They have gone into administration several times.
Which is kind of sad.
I remember Game Station.
I do remember Game Station. It's kind of sad to me because there was nothing more really than a thrill of going into a game shop when you were younger and picking out the new games, reading the back of it, and then when you would buy the game, you would open it on the way home and you'd read the manual and stuff. Like, that feeling was unbeaten to me. And then that weird, like, fresh smell when you open the case. Like,
I think for me, the only reason I ever... pre-COVID, the only reason I ever used to go into Game was when me and my ex were together and she used to go into a clothes shop or to some other shop, and I'd go into Game and have a look just to waste a bit of time.
Honestly though, I thought it was honestly one of the best feelings, and I remember I would buy a game and I'd go to the store and I'd start reading the game manual without paying for it, and I'm like, get the playbook, and I'm like, oh, I'll find some secrets for when I go home. But now, I mean, who buys a computer nowadays with a CD drive? No one really does so. So I feel like it's going to be the same eventually. But it's then the argument of people don't have internet connections, so you're going to always need that CD drive unless you can find a way to redeem codes. You can buy the code somehow from a store and redeem that. But even now, they're releasing like the PS5 digital version and the Xbox One S digital version, so they're obviously giving that option now. So maybe 2-3 years, it's going to go all digital. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think like on the consoles, I don't think they're going to try and force anyone to go all digital with like the stick approach, but they're going to use the carrot to increasingly incentivize digital.
Yeah, the new PS5 digital, according to leaks, is going to be about $50 to $100 cheaper than the disc.
And that disc costs like $20-$30.
That's a huge incentive for me, because if I'm paying, say I'm paying $350 for the digital, and then the edition with the game with the disc drive is $450, I'm thinking, I could buy a game for that. Like, I'll get that in a game for the same price, and I've got something to play on my new PS5.
But when was the last time you bought a game on disc? I mean, I bought Final Fantasy VII on disc just because I knew I could get it a week early. But apart from that, like, midnight releases used to be really exciting for me. I'd always go to Call of Duty midnight releases, and everyone would be there. There'd be like people in cosplay, and there'd normally be like sponsors that would come in, and it would be like a really great night. And then you'd be the first in, get the game. It'd be really great. But now there's no reason for me to do that, because I can just get the digital version and play it on midnight.
There's so many more incentives as well, I think, from like the PlayStation Store, Xbox Store, Gold, Ultimate Pass, everything like that. Yeah. The stores physical stores are struggling to keep up. They're having to match sales at a huge rate. It used to be them leading the sales. Yeah. Now it's PlayStation, Xbox, everyone else, Steam. Yeah. I think is a great example of that. Actually just wiping them off.
Xbox Game Pass is, I mean, I'm a Sony PlayStation user, but I think that's one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen. And you can transfer those games to the PC. I think Netflix did so well and kind of ruined the cinema industry in a way, because it's just so on demand. And I think that is eventually where everywhere's going to go, because Sony have kind of got like the PlayStation Now, but it's not quite on the level as the Game Pass at the minute.
I suspect they'll try and beef
match
it up a bit.
100%.
I don't know if they're going to match it in terms of like first-party Sony games hitting a subscription service day one. Like, they won't do that in the same way that Microsoft do, because they've got so many huge games that sell millions and millions of copies. But get a bit closer to where Microsoft are at.
But I will go back, and I mean, when the PlayStation Store's on, I'm notorious for buying games and then playing them 3 years later. But I'd happily spend $40-$50 for the whole year and be able to play those games selectively. Like PlayStation. Was it PlayStation Now where you could play like all the PS3 games and such like that? Like that's such a good idea. And obviously with the PS5 being backwards compatible, that'll all work with one another. But I think the Xbox Game Pass did so well.
We'll have to wait and see, because we know it's backwards compatible with PS4, but I think
probably not with PS3.
PS3 games, they'll probably still just be streamed.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe. But the only way I could see them doing PS3 or even PS2 or PS1 would be to encourage subscribing to a service that gets you all these games to play locally.
Yeah, I'd more than happily, but I pay $11.99, I think it is, for Game Pass Ultimate now. That gets me all of the games that are on there. It gets me the PC version of it. It gets me Xbox Live Gold to play online. I'm more than happy paying that for the next 2 years and get all of the games. Like, I went straight on and then I played The Witcher, I played Kingdom Come, and all of the Gears of War. I ratcheted through all of the Gears of War, all the Halos, and it's just so much better than spending £25 on the pre-owned version of the game. Going back every month. Like, it saved me so much money, and I play games that I wouldn't have normally played. So it gives that reach to the developers as well. So
I feel like, I mean, when everyone says what do you see happening in 2-3 years, I don't think anyone's predicted what was going to happen this year. But I think with shops like Game, I don't. If we did switch to an all digital version, I don't see why they couldn't set up shop online. You could work in doing that way and close all the high streets and save all.
Let them. They'll say no thanks. That's our margin.
Because Microsoft has closed all of their stores now, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah, they've got. What's it called, like an experience center or something, the 4 biggest ones, but all the smaller ones.
That's like what Samsung do. Samsung no longer have stores. They have experience stores where you go in and try it, and then you order it online from the store. You don't actually pick it up on the day, which I think is where things like Microsoft might go. It's definitely where I see Sony going, especially because they have a lot more versatility in the stuff like they have the TVs and the sound systems and everything else.
But honestly, I think the only use personally for me, when it comes to game now, is if I'm going to buy a game that I know I also want to return later after I've finished it. Because normally when I buy a game digitally, I know I'm going to play that multiple times. So if I play Call of Duty, for example, I'm going to always play that. Whereas Final Fantasy Remastered, for example, I'll probably play it 3 or 4 times, but then I'll just sell it back and get a different game. That's when I find game shops useful, because you can't do that digital. You can't complete a game and then be like, oh, I'll get 50% of it back. That doesn't exist. So that's where game for me still stands now. But in terms of any other priorities, I don't really use game.
So I would say for physical, like I mostly buy games digitally, but I do want to have, in a console, I want to have the option of a disc drive. For, like, if I'm borrowing a game off a friend, or if I see a disc copy of a game that I never played before for cheap, okay, yeah, I'll pick that up because it's at a good price. But yeah, the majority of stuff I buy.
So that's probably where like Sony and Microsoft and everybody are missing the mark. Like game sharing, that would be great. Like up to 3 people, you can share this game with them, and they can play it for a certain amount of time. Maybe like loyalty card systems. So you buy 5 games from the store, you get a 50% discount off the next game you buy. That could be a route to go. Sony, I am available.
Is this like a Nando's loyalty card for Sony stores and stuff?
Sony,
on your 10th visit, you get Gears of War for free or something.
Yeah, like that sort of thing might be worth bringing in for them to say, oh, you know, you buy from us consistently. Sorry, Mitch, I just saw that. Whacked his head with a pillow.
That's fine.
But yeah, like having those incentives, but then there's so many sales that does it really make a difference?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, NBA 2K20 is my favourite game. I got it for 15 quid, like 4 months after it was released. I'd wait the 4 months to play it, and now they're giving it away for free. And I feel
I'd say the one other thing as well is, and a lot of people don't really care about this, but some games do get delisted. So like I've went back and played a lot of all through the whole series of the Forza Horizon games, but you can't buy Forza Horizon 1 or 2 digitally anymore. There's just no option to buy it because their licenses for the cars were like, okay, yeah, 4 years or something like that. So each one, as it hits 4 years old, they remove it from sale completely. I don't know if that's going to be the case with the newer ones as well, but for the first 2, that's it. Yeah, so
there's a lot of nuances there.
So I at least like the idea of there being a disc version out there, so that if that, in 10 years' time you want to go and revisit a game and you can't buy it digitally, there's still some way of playing it at least.
So to answer your question, I think we all agree that with everything that's gone on, digital might take over now.
There are going to be changes.
Yeah.
We just don't know what they are.
I guess it differs from business to business.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've not worked in a game creation kind of industry. I don't know how that kind of works when you're an environmental artist, for example. But personally, when I'm editing, for example, I love being in a booth on my own, soundproofed, no one else around me, no distractions. I mean, it might be the same for someone who likes to do environmental art. It differs on person to person basis. If you're in a really loud office and you're trying to create this magical world, is it the same as being in your room, in your space, in your calm space, and being able to do it? I don't know. I just feel like maybe now employers may be more accepting of allowing people to do that, because some people are like, oh, we don't know if we let our employees work from home if they can do the same amount of work than they would do in the office. But I can tell that from speaking to friends or speaking to people in our business, for example, we have done the same and even more sometimes working from home than doing it in the office.
You're really hitting this work from home stuff.
Yeah, WePC, I mean, I'm pretty much, the founders are going to watch this. If you want to let us work from home more, then that's fine. No, to be honest, our new office is going to be really, really cool. We'll show you that in the few upcoming weeks. I don't think I want to live at home. I want to live in that office, to be honest, because it's going to be the new studio. Oh, God. Yeah. But no, I'm just thinking in terms of some people who may need the day to work from home. Employers now won't have to worry like, oh, you're just doing that because you need a day off and you're not going to do anything. I think this whole entire past 4 or 5 months has shown that people can be so productive and in terms sometimes even more productive working from home. So I didn't see it being a problem, because I know some employers are very skeptical about allowing people to do that. So,
yeah.
But in terms of game releases, we'll see.
We'll see that. So
yeah.
The new office will hopefully meet our standards. And speaking of meeting standards, what a great segue.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
That was smooth.
Thank you.
Well done.
So there are a lot of games that have come out this year, some of which have been awful, in a blunt way of putting it. Some of them had a lot of bugs, some of them things. Is there any game you have played or have seen or have experienced that has not met your standards? Like there's something that maybe was hyped that came out and you were like, no, or something where you think like a remaster that you don't remember it being as good as you played it when you were a kid.
I mean, to be honest, everyone's been talking a load of heat about Last of Us at the minute. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. I've not completed it yet, so that might be the reason why. But in terms of like the free, I don't know, I've played about 80% of the game at the minute, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's a different take on the first one. There's a lot of different things going on. I'm trying to do this in the least spoiler way possible. I'm not going to mention any names of any characters. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. The new systems they've brought in, it plays so much more. It's much smoothly. I played the first one a week before this one came out. Moving on to the second one was such a natural progression. It was just seeing the big step up, and I think this whole kind of culture of something getting leaked and then everyone being like, oh, everyone boycott the game, it's awful, and then the voice actors again absolutely destroyed at the minute on social media. It's not even their fault. They just turn up and they act. You know, they're passionate about the game. The person who plays Joel and Ellie, for example, are very passionate about the game. But she's being attacked at the end.
We won't name for spoiler reasons, who was I'd say the antagonist in the game.
I'm not reacting. Carry on.
No. So there was an antagonist in the game, and her voice character, or him, no, it's a her, but her voice actor has been getting death threats for things that have happened in the game.
Yeah.
And you know, here it's the same thing as like when Game of Thrones was released.
Oh yeah.
Like Joffrey got an absolute ton of death.
Oh yeah, he quit acting because of the death threats he got.
Acting, yeah, which is where you
I think
have
he's
to.
actually said he's going to return for something.
Yeah, but that's
I hope
what
he does. He's
Well,
really good at
he's
acting.
a really good actor.
If you as an actor,
get someone to hate you.
yeah, if someone physically hates you to the point they send death threats, I mean, you've kind of done your job, but it also that person's a scumbag. But if you can invoke that emotion out of someone, you are an incredible actor. Because at the end of the
I
day,
want him to play Kid Loki. By the way, in the Marvel films, if they ever bring him back as a kid, he should play Kid Loki. He might be getting a bit too old for that now, but
yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe.
Well, they could digitally remaster him, I guess.
But it's like, yeah, so there's games that have obviously leaked and they're not met up to certain people's standards. I mean, the reviews for Last of Us were great from a critical standpoint.
However, that was the first half of the game.
Yeah, but then the community reviews trounced it a little bit more. But then you have the complete opposite end of the scale, where something like Mafia, which was released, which was the definitive edition and the remastered edition of 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, that's a weird one because it's like a remake, a remaster, and a re-release all in a trilogy, right?
Yeah,
where they're all slightly different
they
propositions.
remade the first with. They completely remade it in a new engine. They'd made new story points, and then they remastered the second, which for me is the best out of all three of them. And then they released the third, just again,
like a Game of the Year edition.
Yeah,
or something.
basically.
Yeah.
But that got absolutely tore to shreds, and that got tore to shreds rightly so, because there was so many bugs in it, and it was just a letdown. Like Mafia 2 and the story of Vito Corleone is one of the best that I had on the PS3, and seeing what they did to that game and the amount of bugs in it and the bugs in the first one, because I'd never actually played the first one, so I sat there and was like, great, I can play the first one and it's all scaled up and fantastic, and then got on and it was just, and for the actual...
So I played the first one back in the day, and I remember thinking, like, I did have some fondness for it, but it'd be a pretty major project to get it up to modern standards, right? Because it, like, I played it, I think it was a couple of years old, and it already felt kind of dated, and then because of the time period as well, like all the cars are really slow. You're just going down lots of roads that look the same as each other. You know, it's just kind of showing its age. So I knew there'd have to be a significant effort to remaster it or remake it, and I guess they didn't.
But then there's this thing, like, for the actual publisher and developer to come out and go, we've got this wrong. We're gonna get a patch out to you as quickly as possible. And then it's still been a month and they've not all been sorted. But for them to come out and go, yeah, we kind of messed up on this, if they were aware of it already, because surely you don't release something.
You'd have thought they'd
bad.
have a little bit
You'd
of a
done a
testing
bit of
or
QA.
something.
Yeah. It seems like it just, they wanted to release it for a certain period. Probably the PS5 announcement spooked them. And the Xbox announcement spooked them.
Which publisher is that? Is it
2K?
2K.
Yeah. So they probably.
So I mean, they've got the money as well, right? It's not like I assume it's not
2K
financial,
check, isn't it, or something like that?
There's a difference, isn't
I
it?
think there's different studios that work.
Difference between
I don't know who made this trilogy.
I think it's 2K check.
You can tell the clear difference between someone who wants to remake a game because they're passionate about it and just because it's a money grab. Like the Final Fantasy VII remake was a full remake, and then that's got two biases, and people who are really massive fans of the original hate it because it's not a remaster, it's a remake. The combat system's completely different, and people are slating the game completely. And I played the last one, about the older one, but I didn't play it as a kid. I played it recently, so I didn't have that kind of like nostalgic trip. And then when I played the new one, it's absolutely incredible. I love every bit of it. I've replayed it twice now, and people are still slating it because it's not what they want. It's like, I want this, and I want it to be perfect. I want it to have this old system, but I just want it remastered. And it's like, it's a remake. It's a remastered remake. But there's a clear difference between the Final Fantasy VII remake and how much time and passion has gone into that, and then the Mafia.
Well, part one of the Final Fantasy.
Part one of 76.
Tell,
Part one,
like,
how many, yeah.
I've walked in on him playing it and it looks exceptional. Do you not think then that's what's going to happen with Cyberpunk? Because then there's so much press behind it, there's so much hype behind it, there's so much time now that they've gone, we're delaying it to make it perfect, we've gone into crunch time to make it perfect, we're pushing it back to make it perfect. Does it then have to be perfect?
Oh, 100%. But I mean, it doesn't.
Is anything less than perfect going to be acceptable?
There's a difference, isn't it, between if it just came out and you'd be like, oh, look at this new game, it's really, really great, but it's been past 2 months, but everyone's like, oh, but it's going to be incredible. Here's some teasers, push back another 2 months. Oh, but here's some gameplay. Oh, have some reviews. It's like building and building and building to the point of it is not, because it's always this argument I've got when you go to the cinema and someone hypes a film up to you and it's like, it's the best film I've ever seen. It's the most incredible thing. And they've hyped that so much up to you. And even if you would just enjoy the film, it doesn't live up to that expectation because that person's been like, it's the best film that I have ever seen. And then because you're waiting for it to be that good, if it's just okay and you've enjoyed the film, it's then bad. So I don't know. I think building hype is good, but if it doesn't meet it, then I don't know.
It makes it almost seem like, I mean, we're going to be 9 months into 2020 when it gets released, and it's already being earmarked for Game of the Decade.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way they're making it sound, and you just don't know whether it's actually gonna live up to that expectation.
But time doesn't mean good, because Final Fantasy 15 was in production for 10 years. I think it was 10. It might have been 20 years. And it was originally, it was called Final Fantasy Versus 13, and it had loads of leaks, and everyone's like, this is going to be amazing. And they've been planning this game for a decade. And then in the last 2 years, they were like, let's completely scrap it. And then the lead designer who had all of his inspiration put into it, he got let go, and they made a completely different game in the last 2 years, and it was completely different, and everyone hated it. So it's one of those, just because it's been pushed back and there's loads more time that goes into it, time doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great game.
Forever.
Yeah.
Because you can be working on a game for 20 years, but it can still be absolutely awful, and then someone can make a game in a year and it can be critically acclaimed. So time doesn't necessarily mean good, but we'll see, because the reviews are going to be coming out soon.
Yeah.
I definitely think some people let themselves hype it up too much in their head, and they think it's going to be absolutely everything they could possibly wish it could be, and then and approaching it with that mindset is going to colour your experience of it.
Yeah. So to round off this podcast, which has been lovely speaking to you both, we're going to look at the best tech that's been announced or releasing, and which one you think or has piqued your interest the most, which one you'd buy if you could afford it, or which one will get the founders to get in, either way.
Why is Will going to buy that probe lens that we want? Will, maybe. I don't know. Facebook is starting to announce VR glasses. I was very excited when I got to try out Google Glass. I thought it was really cool. It is Facebook, right? They're doing the glasses.
Facebook are, yeah, the really chunky, spectacle.
So Google
things.
Glass was wild. When I put them on, I was like, this is some next level like iRobot stuff. And I was really excited for them because at the time I was really getting into like video creation. I was like, this is basically a GoPro that you can wear on your face, which is so convenient because it looks a lot less awkward than you've got a Tony Stark heart on your chest and a harness kind of thing. So that I mean, Facebook have got Oculus, so they're going to already have that. They're able to step their foot into that VR world, so they know what they're doing. And obviously, the thing with VR at the minute is it's so chunky. You put it on your face, and it's like a giant like post box on your face. It's heavy, and it's sweaty, and it's disgusting, and you come out with motion sickness. It's a great experience, but honestly, for like you can't spend longer than an hour in there, otherwise you're going to absolutely feel sick. So it's interesting to see how they're going to do VR glasses, and if it's going to be for gaming or is it going to be for everyday wear. Who knows? But that's what I'm looking forward to, because I love anything VR, to be honest, but I just don't think we're even close to a level of making it a normality at the minute, because everything just makes me feel sick after I've used it.
Yeah, it's very Commodore 64 in the essence of where tech is at the moment to where it could be.
Yeah.
So, God, what a throwback.
Yeah, I think we all thought we were going to have flying cars by now, but
Yeah.
Elon Musk isn't quite there yet.
I
so-
just want a pair of Nike shoes with power laces that ain't 400 quid.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Marty McFly might have paid that much.
Yeah, I mean, I want the hoverboard really. If we're talking about wishes for
Oh.
that.
See, all you need to do, I've already sussed out the hoverboard stuff. So all you need to do is just tear up every single road and then replace it with like a magnetic road, and then you just have magnets on the bottom of cars.
Perfect. You've sussed it out.
There we go. It will
Well,
only cost
if only
a
me, Elon Musk
couple
could
of
afford that.
$1 trillion.
Oh, that's fine.
So, like,
Get that.
get big Jeff Bezos in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he'd want to fund that.
Pretty sure he wants to give his money away to underprivileged people and
Definitely.
people who
That's
need
very characteristic of him.
it. Yeah. Sorry, Jeff Bezos. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to is the VR glasses. I think. I mean, the Oculus is great in any way. So to kind of get some sort of wearable tech again, because I was really excited for Google Glass, and then they just kind of decided to just be like, nah,
See,
spin
yeah,
these.
on wearable tech, there's a Kickstarter called the Cinera Edge. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong, but it's basically like a 4K cinema screen on your eyes, and it's got Dolby Atmos headphones connected to it, like 5.1, and then OLED 4K, and it's basically just going to be a portable
Cinema.
cinema.
But then it kills the cinema industry. It's
The
the
cinema
argument
industry's
of
dying.
should certain things be created because then it ruins something that's good. I love going to the cinema, and I feel like if you can create an experience where I can stay at home and do it, I'm obviously going to do that. But then I don't have the same experience of going there with my friends, getting the popcorn and the nachos and stuff. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think sometimes it's time for things to die and be replaced.
But not
by
the
other
cinema.
things.
I just
I
want them to
agree with
reduce the
that.
prices of food.
I
but
don't know if
talk
it's
about that.
necessarily the cinema's time to go,
Yeah.
but they'll need to do something to keep people interested.
Yeah.
I can't- I
So
can't
that's my most interesting tech, at least. I love VR, so
just do the table.
wearable tech would be great if I can get like Twitter notifications. Because think about doing a live stream on Twitch, and you can have Twitch chat coming up in your peripheral vision. It'd be quite interesting. Actually, no, it wouldn't.
I mean, yeah,
Twitch
starting
chat's
to get
quite toxic.
towards nice fuel stuff. Yeah.
Maybe not actually. Maybe we'll scrap that one.
You get a ping at like 4 a.m. and it's just some 12-year-old having a go at you in a lobby, and you're just like, oh,
Oh, here we go.
no.
Yeah, so that's mine.
So wearable tech from Jay.
Yeah.
Louis?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard there's going to be some new graphics cards or something later this year from at least Nvidia.
Yeah, you've got quite a lot of graphics cards that keep on getting like sprinkly little details. So you've got like the big Navis and
Yeah.
everything like that.
But the big Ampere shift to the 3000 series could be interesting because I think last time round we saw fairly modest jumps in just raw performance because they were adding all the ray tracing and all these extra things on top. But hopefully we'll see that kind of mature a bit, plus a lot more powerful cards as well. Could be interesting to see where that's going to lead. And we're starting to get more displays that can take advantage of this as well, like the different HDMI 2.1 TVs starting to sort of really change how frame rate's working when you're gaming on a TV. That's going to be pretty interesting stuff.
Well, there are loads of monitors coming out now with higher hertz and refresh rates.
Yeah.
That's obviously where people are going in the industry. But is that just excessive?
Do we know
I
if
mean, like 240 hertz seems
Enough.
like that's pretty crazy to me. Like, I don't know if you need much.
Because there's only a
beyond
certain
that
amount that your eye can process before it gets too much.
Do we know if next gen consoles are going to be? Because I know they're using display ports. Are they going to be able to optimize higher monitors?
I mean, I
You'd
know
assume.
that Microsoft have at least said that they're talking about some games being 4K 120 hertz. Now, whether that's like cross-gen games or
Yeah.
whatever, it's not completely clear. I think Sony have said that it would support. I think they've specifically said it would. PS5 will support 8K, but they didn't talk about at what frame rates that would be.
You'd assume 60 frames per second
Yeah,
at least.
like-
Like,
60 frames per second should be baseline. We need to say goodbye to 30 frames per second. Switching from, I remember when I played Destiny from console and going into a menu, not even exaggerating, takes 15 seconds to fully load everything. You go to PC, done. Like this. I can't go back to play Destiny now on console because I've played it on PC in the max quality on a 244 hertz monitor. There's no going back, and I want that because I'm a predominantly console player. I do dabble in PC, and I want that same experience so we can stop having the
out of
PC
all
master
of the
races
people in
shouting
the
at us.
office, I think a lot of people play PC in this office. I think me and you are the two console.
Outcasts.
I don't really play PC gaming. I do for MMOs.
Yeah,
And that is about it.
Okay. I mean, I play a little bit of everything, but yeah, generally my first choice would be on the PC. But
But
I
I'm
everything.
so looking forward to the PS4. I mean, we talked about it all today in copious amount of discussions, but the PS4 for me is just that. It's that next step up. I mean, hearing them talk about the load times, comparing the Spider-Man, that was one of my absolute gripes with the Spider-Man game. I thought that was a really good game, but it took like a minute to load into each section.
I'm just excited for mine not to sound like an AC-130.
Yeah, it is
All I
atrocious.
need for next gen is a better cooling system. Because mine literally turns on and you come into my room, you're like, is there something going on in here? I'm like, that's just my
have you seen the
PlayStation.
size of the new consoles? Like, I think they're definitely taking that into account, and hence we've got these huge monoliths from both Sony and Microsoft.
I don't really mind that. It's obviously that they're progressing and they're putting more stuff in, and bigger can only mean better.
I don't know. I'm sort of.
I hate that you looked at the camera and did that.
I might just wait for whichever console gets a slim version first, because
It's going to be PS4.
I don't know. I feel like
PS5.
Microsoft. I mean, I'll even admit this as a Sony fanboy. I think Microsoft are quite ahead of us at the minute. Obviously,
I think the Microsoft design for the Xbox Series X is a lot better than the PS5.
I think the PS5 is kind of ugly, but not so ugly that it would stop me playing on it.
No.
Like it doesn't actually matter that much, right?
because you're not going to look at it really.
But
Yeah,
I
I do
think
think it's kind of ugly though. Yeah.
the
I like the
design of the PS5 allows it to be slimmed down. I think the design of the Series X doesn't, because the Series X is basically just a rectangle. It's a cube.
It
So
looks
all
like
they
that
can do
map.
is
It
just
looks like a bin.
I think
do
it's
that.
like 3 or 4 GameCubes stacked on top of each
I think
other.
it is, yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably like that big, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's,
I love that statistic so much.
it's like...
But you go into a game store, I'm like, how big is it? It was like about 3, 4
who said
GameCubes.
the one thing that set me off in the office was when someone said that they'd wrote so many amount of words that week, and it was the same amount as the first 3 Harry Potter books.
Yeah,
And that was just the best stat you've ever heard in
my
your life.
favourite thing was getting the news that the consoles had been announced, and we were in the office when it happened, and Mike was sat in that corner over there, and Charlie was like, oh, next gen console, who cares about them? And Mike just turned around and goes, yeah, but they've not released the PC 2, have they? And I literally was creasing, my stomach was hurting, because how is the confidence, how he said it with his chest just made me laugh so much. But yeah, so my wearable tech, graphics cards, well, ended on a big one.
Next generation consoles. I
Consoles.
Consoles.
Lovely.
Console
Love
ourselves
that.
with story.
Consoles.
Yeah.
Fine. It's been a long podcast.
Yeah.
Not Joe Rogan long, but long.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be interesting to see where they go and what they bring. Obviously,
Ooh, that or the the new Razer Flip smartphone.
flip smartphone.
Oh, the Motorola Razr.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
the Motorola Razer V4.
I mean, I had one of those back in the day, but I
it's
don't need a
literally
folded
just a
phone.
flip, and then it's a dual screen, and that's just.
We got to use that. So yes, it is phenomenal. I'm not going to lie, it's great. I'm not going to swap it out from my phone to that, because I think it's more of like a nostalgic trip.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if business people start using Motorola's again. Personally,
We're
but
going back to nostalgia. We're going back to small gaming as well. There's a lot of handheld controllers that are coming out, like the Razer Navi, and is it Navi?
Razer Kishi. Yeah, it's already out.
Yeah.
It's
There was that new 8-bit one announced, or was it yesterday?
There's
or
that,
something,
and then
right?
Steel Series bringing one out, and then like there's
Well,
gonna
yeah,
be
'cause
tons.
handheld gaming is becoming a lot more popular. I mean, people choose to play Fortnite on their phones as opposed to consoles, and people play. There is a lot of games that are on mobile because people may not have the hardware available to play those games. Like you can play an MMO called Black Desert, which is a predominantly MMO based on a computer. You can play that entirely on your phone. And so why wouldn't you get this little controller rather than having to spend £1,000 on a PC, whatever it was? So.
Thank you for listening to the first episode of the WePC podcast. Now we're available on Spotify and YouTube, and if there's any topics that we haven't discussed, any games we haven't talked about, or any games you want us to talk about, leave a comment in the description on our YouTube video and we'll get back to it. If you like what you see, and I'm not just talking about me.
Well, this
Why
time it's
is it
us, so
subscribe-
I feel like you need to create a new rhyme when there's more than one
Yeah,
person.
we can cut it at that. That's cool. That
If
could
you
be the
like-
podcast
Think of a new
then.
rhyme for next week. How about
Yeah, we'll
those?
think of a new round for next week. Now, we've been having some technical difficulties with our like and subscribe buttons, so if you could just click on those to make sure that they are still working, we'd really appreciate it. There'll be a link to the podcast episode in audio in the description below. We'll see you next week.